In this tutorial, we're going to go over Photoshop CC 2020 Classroom in a Book Chapter 1, Getting to Know the Work Area. This one is not so much about producing something as it is getting to be more familiar with the terms and the area in general. So let's go ahead and take a peek. You can follow along in the book as we go. Right now I'm on basically starting in the work area. So what you want to do is pay attention to a few things that we've got. Mine is going to look a little bit different than yours because I'm on a PC. You may be on a Mac. So things are relatively the same, but not exactly. Things that I do want you to pay attention, things like where different elements are. You do have a home screen here on Photoshop, which gets you quite a few different abilities to see and do different things. Let's go ahead and open a document. Let's go ahead and go into this Start. So I'm going to go to File and Open, and I went to where I had my photo unzipped, grabbed my Start document, and I'm going to hit Open. Alright, from there I want you to kind of take a peek at a few things. First thing I want you to see is the different parts of the screen. This very top row right here, which is going to look a little bit different on a Mac, is called your menu bar. The next one down is called your options bar. The option bar is going to change depending on which tool you have selected. So it's really kind of a properties bar. It gives you a lot of different abilities to change things as we go along. This one right here does give you a exit out to your home screen if you want to be able to toggle between those things. I'm going to go back into my Start. On here you have your Tools panel. Your Tools panel has quite a few different items in it. In the Tools panel, if you'll notice, there's little tiny triangles in the corner, which will often either give you a pop-up to tell you what the tool does, or if you click on them, will actually give you additional tools hiding underneath. So you will be looking for tools on occasion, trying to find things. One of the main things between the differences between Windows and Mac is that Windows always presents it in this window itself, contained in a window. On a Mac, you can choose whether you want to have that frame, which has the document, or if you want it to be only the menu bar outside that application window. So it looks a little bit different. Alright, so we've got our file open. Let's go ahead and take a peek at a few things we can do with this file. One of the first things we want to do is let's look at the toolbar. On the toolbar you have these double arrows. If you double click them, you can change them from a 1-row to a 2-row panel. I like them in 1 row. Most of my tutorials are going to be held in 1 row. So if you're looking for a tool, it's probably where it is, but you do have the ability to toggle that back and forth. So also I want you to notice a few other things. Let's look at the bottom of the screen. At the bottom of the screen you're going to see the status bar, which tells us this percent, which is how much it is zoomed in, or what percentage of the image we're looking at. So we're looking at 179%, so I know I'm looking at a very zoomed in version right now. It's also going to tell me the other information about this image. So right now I know it's almost 5 inches by about 7 inches, and I know it's got 200 ppi, which is points per inch. I can see with the arrow a whole bunch of different items in this status bar, so it's a great place to keep track of where you're looking at things. A lot of times you think you're doing something that's really big, but you're really zoomed in at like 400%, so that doesn't help. Let's go ahead and play with the zoom tool. So if we go to the tools bar, let's go to the zoom and select it, so we know it's selected, and we can click anywhere on the window to zoom in. So if we hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, it will let you zoom back out. So if you have this one called Scrubby Zoom marked, it'll let you go and pull in and out when you swipe right. So it's kind of a nice way to do it. You can make it fit to the screen, you can make it fill the screen. So these are really nice, especially as you're doing some really tiny things and you want to pay attention to them. So let's go ahead and deselect our Scrubby Zoom. Let's go ahead with our zoom tool and draw a box around the rows, which is what we want to see. And notice how it just zooms in on that little area, so that makes it a little bit easier. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a file, save as, and start playing with this actual image. So file, save as. I want first initial, last name, underscore CIAB, or let's go PS Photoshop CIAB Chapter 1. So that tells me who you are, which book we're working on, and which chapter we're on. It's especially important because when all of you turn in everything at once, if you don't rename them and they all come in as Chapter 1 start, then I have to rename them, and that's not any fun. So let's go ahead and say OK. So I'm going to zoom out. I can do a Control minus to zoom out as well. And you can see that my image is pretty dark. It's not a very great image right now, so we can play with it a little bit. One of the things we can do is play with the adjustments panel. So if we go over to the right hand side, you see a layer called layers. Right above it you get one called properties and adjustments. I'm going to go ahead and hit adjustments. We want to go ahead and play with the brightness and contrast, which is the very first one. It looks like a little sun. So when we play with adjustment layers, what we're really doing is what's called non-destructive editing, and we are creating a layer above it so we can turn those on and off without ruining our picture underneath and not hurting any of those pixels. Alright, so let's go ahead and play with that. Let's go ahead and play with our brightness. We can either use the sliders to brighten things up, or you can type numbers in. I'm going to go for like a 98. Whoop, not 9 star. Okay. And let's go ahead and change our contrast. So you can take your contrast way down so you've got less or more difference between the colors. I'm going to go ahead and take it to about an 18. So now you can see if we turn off the layer adjustment layer on the layers, we can see what it looks like without that adjustment layer on. So it actually makes it a little bit easier, especially if you're not quite sure what you want to do with something. Adjustment layers come in very, very handy. Let's do a Control S and save what we've got so far. Alright, so now some of the things we have to do is sample colors. So if you look in your toolbar, you've got your two colors right here, foreground color and background color. You can easily switch between those with your arrows, or you can go back to black and white. So let's go ahead and take a peek at a few things. Let's go ahead and create a ribbon that says happy birthday. So let's select the ribbons layer and go ahead and make sure it's active and turn the eyeball on so we can actually see it. So we've got this happy birthday layer. So let's go ahead and use our eyedropper, which is under the ruler if you can't find it. So you've got eyedropper tool. Depends on what you were using last. And let's click a blue area in here to choose a blue. So if you look right now, I'm going to zoom in, Control plus, use my space bar and zoom down. This is actually several different colors of blue. So if I click on this one, I get a different color than I will if I click on that one. So you can see over here in your navigator the different types of blue that are getting picked up, because some have that grain and some do not. So while we think it's consistent, it's really important to pay attention to which part of the blue you are working with. Alright, so we went ahead and sampled the blue. What else can we do? We can see that that foreground color right here is now that blue. If I wanted to, I could grab the yellow from the letters, I could grab the green, I can grab, whatever color I want. Makes a really nice way to grab a color from your photo so you know it's going to match really well. And you can come up with some really nice effects that way. Alright, so let's go ahead and play with a few other things like setting unit of measure and just some other basics. So if you go to Edit and Preferences, if you are on a Mac, it's going to be under Photoshop and Preferences, and I want to go ahead and go to Units and Ruler. So it's about halfway up. And let's go ahead and make, kind of pay attention. So my rulers are in inches. I want my type to be in points. I want my print resolution to come in at 300. I want my screen resolution to be 72. And while we're here, let's also go to Performance and go to your history states and bump that up as high as it goes. This tells Photoshop how many times you could go undo, undo, undo. So it'll go back 1,000 steps if you bump this up. Otherwise, it's only like 50, which 50 sounds like a lot, but every single little thing you do creates a history state. So these are already the different history states that we have created in this document already. So you can see why you'd want to bump those up. I'm going to go ahead and toggle that back down. Alright, so let's go ahead and use some of the context menu. We want to go ahead and scroll out so we can see the lower part of the card, so we can create a second ribbon that's going to have this part, the Elaine part. So let's go ahead and grab a rectangle marquee. The marquee is different than the shape, down toward the top. And let's go ahead and draw a rectangle. You notice that you get these tooltips as you go along to tell us how big or how small that is supposed to be. So let's go ahead and make it about 0.75 tall and about 2.5 inches wide. And you can go, this is really dumb, I don't want to do this. So you can go ahead and set those over in your properties bar as well. So we're going to go 2.5 and alright, no we can't. Alright, it's good enough for what we need to do. Alright, so we are on our ribbons bar. We have our dancing ants. That's what these little dashed lines are. And let's go ahead and grab our brush tool. With our brush tool, we can right click anywhere to open that brush tool context menu. So right click, brush tool. Go ahead and right click. It's going to give us some options there. We want to go ahead and go up here to our different brushes, so we can play with those as we go along. You'll get see different types of folders depending on what you have installed. I'm going to go ahead and do the drop down for the general brushes. I want to grab a soft round brush, which is usually the first one, and let's change it to be about 65 points or 65 pixels. And I'm not worried about the hardness because we chose a soft brush. We can either hit enter to return and close it, or you can click up here in a blank part of the option bar and it'll close it as well. So because, well, let's go ahead and choose my blue again. Because I have the dancing ants, I can only color in the section that has the dancing ants. So I don't have to be precise. You can see I'm trying to color all over the rows, but nothing's happening until I color within that section. So make sure you go ahead and create kind of that bar for us. So I'm going to scroll in, zoom up, make sure that we've got it all the way, because once we turn off the selection, we won't be able to go back in and grab it. Alright, so let's go ahead and do select and deselect, and now you see we've got our anywhere we color now will show up. Control Z is undo. Will make your life a little bit easier. So now we want to play with a few of the other things. Let's try a hidden tool. So let's go over the third from the top. Let's go grab our lasso tool. So it looks like a little lasso. So you can see that that's the one on top. But we actually want one that's underneath, which is the polygonal lasso. So click here and grab the polygon. So that's how you get to those other ones. We want to press and hold until we get that. And we want to, if you do shift, you can cycle between the different ones. So I can do shift and L, and it'll take me through the different types of items, but I don't want to worry about that right now. I'll just go ahead and hit my polygonal lasso. What we want to do right now is cut off a little bit of this corner right here in order to make that ribbon effect. So because we are on our own layer, it's only going to cut the pixels in this section. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here in the top corner. I'm going to come down here to about half. And you can see where you are on the bar on the side. I'm going to go about here. I'm going to click, and I'm going to come down here to the bottom corner. Click, and then I need to close the path by going up here to the top. So now I have a closed path. So I can hit delete, and now I have created that ribbon shape. So it's a really nice way to, really easy way to change the shapes. I'm going to do a Control D to deselect, or you can go select, deselect. Let's do a Control S and save what we've got so far. Alright, so now we want to go ahead and play with our text. So let's come down here to our horizontal type tool. We want to go ahead and set our type. So let's go ahead and do Minion Pro. If you don't have it, you can always go up to the top and you can type it in. I have a lot of fonts because I get a lot of stuff turned in. So we want just Minion Pro regular. And I'm actually going to go ahead and decide I want Minion Pro. I can have italic also. So you've got a lot of different options. So if you pick the wrong one, you can always go back through. And let's go ahead and choose Minion Pro Italic. And our point size is 32. You can either use this to undo. Control Z. You can use the points. You can write those in if you want to get something exactly. Now right now it's typing in blue on top of blue, which I do not want. So I'm going to choose my color. I'm going to go ahead and sample a color. And you can use a pink or something. So let's go ahead and say OK. Or we can use the swatches panel. Go ahead and go into right here, over here in swatches. And you'll see you've got quite a few different colors available right here. They're already created if you don't want to go ahead and sample one. So let's go ahead and try yellow. And now you're going to see that color is going to appear here in the foreground and up here in the text bar as well. So let's go ahead and with our text tool, go ahead and put your name. Make this a card for yourself. I got to delete what I've got here. Or make it mom or whatever you want. Alright, so we've got that, and don't worry about positioning, we'll fix that. In order to commit our change, when you hit this check here at the top, go ahead and grab our move tool and move it down. So you get it wherever you want to have it positioned within that element. So there's a lot of different options you can do there. If you don't like what you're doing, you can always hit a Control Z and undo. Now it's new to Photoshop. If you've used it before, it used to be you could only undo one step. Now you can undo multiple steps like you could in InDesign and some of the others. So that one is new to this one. So let's go ahead. We've got it in the card. Control S to save. So we're good with that one. Let's do a Control minus. So we've played with a few different items in this one. Another few things you can look at is panels. You can hide panels, you can move panels around, you can grab a panel and undock it. You can put it in and dock it here. When you do window, say maybe you want actions to be docked, you could take that action and give it a shortcut. You know it's going to have a shortcut by putting the little blue line right there. So it's kind of a nice way to be able to control the way it's looking. If you do something, you can't figure out where something went, go back to your windows, go to Workspace, go to Reset Essentials. This Learn part always pops up. I don't want it. It takes up way too much space for me, so I go ahead and close that down. And you can change the size of that palette as well. So it makes it look a little bit easier. You can always expand and collapse those based on the little double arrows. So depending on how much space you have, sometimes when you're working on things like a laptop, you don't have as much room. So, you know, being aware of how large a space your panels are taking up can make your life a lot easier, so you're not designing on a postage stamp. So that's basically all we're doing for this one. Do a Control S. You're going to go ahead and submit this Photoshop Chapter 1 PSD, this birthday card. And what I'm looking for is it brightened? Did you change the color of the ribbon? Did you cut out the square or the triangle? And I hope you learned something new about Photoshop.